Recording. Speaker view. Speaker view. Okay. Can you just talk for a second, Luke, please?
Yeah. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you just keep going for a little bit longer, if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. What I'll say, I'm going to just say random words for a while just to do your mic test. Cool. Yeah. Okay.
Speaker view. Okay. Right. I think just double check that. Speaker view. I think I've got a few different views here, so I'm going to try one particular view on the record. But okay, we'll make a start. Well, welcome to the eCom at One podcast. With me today, I've got Luke Carthy. Now, Luke, I met not that long ago, actually, only about 3.5-ish months ago. Luke came over to me at an SEO event, full of energy and full of sort of passion for digital and SEO. And I didn't realize at the time, but Luke's actually a very seasoned speaker at events and has spoke at MozCon, Search Love, a lot of the big high-profile SEO events. So obviously, after I got back from the event, had a real good look at what Luke's been doing. And we've been trying to get Luke on the podcast. And thank you so much, Luke, for agreeing to come on board and be interviewed on the podcast. So welcome to the eCom at One podcast.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you having me on. It's crazy because these things are always more nerve-wracking than actual conferences. I think it's the fact that it's recorded in real time, even though the conferences are, but there's just something about one-on-one. And always gets my skin crawling a little bit. I'm looking forward to it. I'll
try and relax you, get you warmed up, and get you loosened up, should I say?
Brilliant.
So obviously met you at the SEO conference, and the podcast is very much focused around e-commerce stores. And I know obviously straight away that you're very experienced in the e-commerce sector. I think on your website, your sort of pitch or your headline is e-commerce growth consultant. So that's quite a mouthful, but ultimately you have got a lot of experience in the e-commerce sector, a lot of e-commerce specific. So maybe if you want to tell me a little bit about the last maybe 5 years in the e-com, what you've been doing, from industry to now freelance.
Yeah, sure. So there's been a bit of a mixed bag of the last 5 years for sure. I think kind of about 5 years ago now I was in an in-house role. Or a couple of in-house roles over the last 5 years, but I kind of transitioned from agency and jumped on an in-house role and thought, you know what, this sounds like an awesome opportunity because I can spend more time on one specific client and really get into the detail and have that capacity to really kind of, spend time and find bits and pieces. So I kind of fell in love with SEO. I landed on my feet in eCom, and it was kind of all sorts of bits and pieces since then. So yeah, in-house at Caterpillar, in-house at pharmaceutical retailers, and loads of bits and pieces. And I think over the time, what I've learned is I had a massive affinity and love for e-commerce. And I think the main reason why is because it's undisputed growth. You can literally see the money you put in the till. So, if you're making the tills ring and you're essentially driving sales, then it's typically, most cases, quite easy to see where you're making a difference. And it's instant, it's immediate, and I love the pace of it. It's something I absolutely adore to do.
Yeah, I think that's the big one, isn't it? You can see the results. It's that simple.
Yeah. Which goes in both ways. Sometimes it can be, oh God, what have I done? But some of the times, definitely, it's kind of like, wow, that really works. Let's do more of it.
Yeah. At least you know where you are, don't you? There's no sort of the facts are the facts. You've got some good data. Maybe you've got some bad data, but ultimately you've got some data with pound signs on it that are saying this is working, this is not working, this is right. Let's turn the tap. Let's look at what we're doing. So you've gone agency, in-house, and now freelance. So you've sort of done almost like the full circle, if you like, the whole shebang of options in terms of industry.
Yeah, quite literally. So agency was, I like to sort of categorize the three different distinct roles in three different ways. So I think if anyone's getting started in the industry and wants to really jump into SEO or whatever it is, then you cannot beat agency for the level of exposure to account management, to client deliverables, all that sort of good stuff. In-house is very much a case where you can specialize more and get more of the politics and understanding of technology limitations and all sorts of good stuff. And then freelance for me was just identifying that it was a bit of a leap of faith. And I wanted to be in control of my own destiny, essentially, and ultimately offer my services and expertise to more than one company, which comes with pros and cons. But I love all three of them. But I think in-house was definitely the point for me where I realized, e-commerce is what I really want to stick at.
Yeah, I think, obviously been an agency owner for about 10 years, I guess. And you sort of obviously had different account managers in the business, and we can sort of see that, I had some cracking account managers that are working in the business now and have worked in the business, but you sort of almost see that some people prefer working on a lot of stuff where, you may be a bit broad, but you're working on a lot of accounts and getting a lot of exposure to different things, different types of industries and different verticals and different product sets, which is very exciting. But then some account managers prefer, maybe that one or two, which can be a bit more challenging in-house to have one or two or three clients. But then, some people obviously do leave the agency and move on to, specific companies where they can go sort of all in. They can spend the 5 days doing an SEO audit rather than the 2 days that you do it, if that's necessary, and really going deep on the specifics. So it does allow you, doesn't it, to, especially in-house, being able to go a bit deeper in some of the topics. So freelancing, then how long have you been? You've not been freelancing too long, have you? I think.
No. So I officially went freelance in October. So kind of call it 4-ish months.
So pretty much when we met, then you just just gone over, just gone over to the freelance.
Exactly. I think I was probably still just in the midst of my notice period, actually, when we met for the first time, and it's been a whirlwind of a 4 months, to be honest. All sorts of. I actually wrote a post which really blew up. Actually, there was a lot of people who resonated with it and took something from it. But it was just a couple of things that I wanted to talk about that a lot of people typically don't when they go freelance. So the emotional side of things, just speaking to the right people, getting the right network around you. But for me, I've been lucky. I do also have a business which I've had for a number of years now in promotional products. So that kind of helped me to get an understanding of the commercials and
I guess that's e-commerce.
Naturally. So it's been crazy, but I'm absolutely in love with what I do right now. Freelance has been incredible decision.
What would you say there's that in-house guy or girl thinking about making the jump? What would your advice be? What would you sort of say what would you say to somebody that's thinking of making that jump, or what are the tips you would?
So I think one of the biggest ones is identify your niche. And it doesn't have to be super granular or super specific, but just when someone is talking about you when you're not in the room, how would they be able to explain what you do as easy as possible? Because it's, if you say you're an SEO person or you're an SEO specialist, well, you and probably 500,000 other people, right? So what is it you do in the world of SEO or in your environment that makes you the go-to person for that problem? So to list a few names, for example, Barry Adams is the guy who I'd always go to for press, for news, for algorithms and that sort of stuff. You've got people like Marie Haynes, who are absolute gurus in the world of EAT and kind of understanding algorithms and picking pieces apart. Then the specialists I know in content, so that they're all SEO, if you like, but they all have their pocket specialisms. And I think it's understanding what your core specialism is and making that as easy as possible for other people to understand. If you don't have that, you get lost in the noise.
So you've got specialisms in terms of, like, say, e-commerce is your specialism, but do you have then within e-commerce, do you have special or specialisms in terms of industries that you focus on within e-commerce?
Do you know what? Yes and no. I think normally it's a case of getting down to the conversation of what the client wants before. So I've been lucky enough to work in both B2B and B2C e-commerce, and I love both. I actually prefer B2B, actually, which is a little bit more unusual than what a lot of people would say. But it really depends on the fit and what they want, or maybe even identifying the size and scale of their problem. Because for example, if it's something like re-platforming, then it's not necessarily my expertise, but I absolutely know the people who would be the go-to in that. If you want to talk about strategy, online growth, internal search, UX, CRO, then hell yeah, I'm happy to get stuck in.
That's your bag.
So I think it typically depends on what the problem is. And sometimes it might be a case of, I can help you with these, and I'd recommend you reach out to this person for that, a collaborative effort.
I think that really resonates with me. I've had 10 years the agency, and we hold my hand up, and we've been very guilty of we do everything. to everybody, for everybody.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, and the
it's crazy.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity out there with our industry, you know, whether it's, you know, there's 20 different, you know, AdWords, shopping, Facebook, UX, SEO, break it down 15 times, PR, digital PR, we could be here all day. And the reality is, you know, yeah, I think listed every one of those services on our website a few years back, and then we sort of went, whoa, hang on a minute.
There's a lot going on, right?
Stuff here we're really good at, and the stuff here that, let's be honest, you know, we're not as passionate about, we're not as good at. You know, in reality, there's people that are better. So that's exactly what you're saying is exactly what we did. You know, we split our agency into two, and we just literally do not do certain aspects. And we go, no, you know, if somebody wants X, Y, Z, we say you need to speak to whoever it is. But if somebody comes along who is very specifically after the things we do, we just know that conversation is going to be a very good conversation, and the likelihood of working together, if they're good people, if it's a fit, is very, very high. So.
Yeah, and then it was crazy thing is
self-selection of your customers straight away.
Yeah, for sure. And the funny thing is, the reason why I say it depends on the conversation is because someone might have a conversation and say, I want X. But actually, when you get and forget what you think you want. I know it sounds patronizing, but I promise it's not. But forget what you think you want. Tell me what your problems are and tell me what success looks like. Because some people might come to you and say, hey, look, I want SEO. And then you're like, okay. Why do you think you want SEO? Because I want more customers.
I want to double my sales,
Yeah, and then you think, well, hold on a minute. So what are your problems that you have right now? Well, this doesn't work, that doesn't work. Well, actually, you don't need SEO right now. You have a technical problem that you need to fix away from SEO. For example, it's too slow, right? I mean, you could argue that is SEO, but what they've come to you for could be different to what they actually need. Or the perfect cliche one is, I need a new website. Right, I'm fed up with my old one, you know, blah, blah. And actually, you could find that it's not a new website they need, it's just some things that need to be repaired. And it's not that you'll say no to a new website, it might just be not yet. You know, if we can...
right at the beginning, like what does sort of success look like? Well, it doesn't look like a website, it looks like more sales, or 20% or 40% over 3 years, or whatever that sort of number is. The website is a piece of the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then it's being what's what.
So it's always better to not take what they're asking for at face value. Some people know exactly what they want, and that's great. Other people, as horrible as it sounds, think they know what they want and that they're happy to hand over money. And you can say, well, you don't need to go and spend 50 grand right now. How about you just go and spend 5, fix those problems, and defer your 50 grand once we've hit a certain milestone, you know? So
get some money back rolling in to pay for the next phase potentially, and it self-funds itself, Okay, great. So I think it'd be good just to touch back on some of the talks that you've done. So what would you say, obviously I saw you were doing a panel more so when we met, but I know you've done some, you know, you were chairing a panel, weren't you? Quite a quirky panel. But you've spoken at MozCon?
Yes, MozCon was ridiculous. It was like the peak of, that was actually the conference for me that made me want to go freelance. That was the kind of, for me, it was kind of like right now or never, because when I stepped off that stage, the feedback was insane. The opportunities were incredible. I had conversations with some really cool people from Airbnb, from car gurus, and it was like, I had to turn these out, right? Because I was employed at the time. I
still employed, yeah. So
it festered away in the back of my head for some time, and I thought, you know what? If MozCon's my pedestal, then hell yeah, let's make it happen. But in terms of topics, I've spoken about things that are a little bit more unorthodox, a little bit less typical. So MozCon was talking about how to use an SEO tool to deliver CRO growth. So a bit of a mishmash of using a tool that's not what it's necessarily designed for and using it for something else. So one example I identified in there was for a client, how we wait a second. Oh, that was it. So I looked at Home Depot, and one of the examples was they have thousands upon thousands of categories that have no products in, but they all resolve. They all have a 200 response code. So if I had access to the data, I could have proven to Home Depot that you have 500,000, say, visits to all these categories. You've got no products in. What are you doing? Or
no products been served.
There you go. Or search queries that have high volume but low product count, or been able to use things like custom extraction to identify search terms that have small numbers of products. So, you know, I'll give you a perfect example. There's a client of mine that sells racks and networking equipment.
Yep.
And they had a lot of searches for rack drawers, but they didn't manufacture any. They didn't have any. So naturally, when I started to find an insight, I was like, you need to go and manufacture some rack drawers. So they did. Yeah. They started to sell. Happy days. So it was all that kind of stuff of understanding the data that you have and finding opportunities for sales. What did
the client do with all the 200 response codes in the end? What did they put on the pages? I'm curious.
Oh, so it was the home. I think I did Home Depot, Argos, and Best Buy. So they're not my clients. These were just kind of check. I mean, it'd be brilliant if they was. It'd be brilliant if they was. But it was just a case of I wanted to pick on brands that people, because everyone assumes, right? Not everyone, but a lot of people assume that a big brand always do things the right way.
At the end of the day, they're just like me and you, or there's a few more of them getting paid a lot more probably.
So I think it kind of hit twice as hard when I picked a brand that people considered a household name in the US and found really basic things that they were doing wrong that was costing them potentially quite substantially. So it was just 3 cherry-picked instances of American brands that I thought would work well.
Because I think you have quite a habit, should I say, of picking on, picking's the wrong word, but learning and exposing issues that big sites have. I think you obviously you had a bit of a situation with Lidl not so long ago, I believe. Tell me about that.
Yeah, Lidl was fun. So there was a situation where I think it was a Christmas campaign, and I had a good copy of the Good Food magazine because I love to eat and I love to cook. Right? So back cover, beautiful spread, Lidl, and it was a really nice URL, lidl.co.uk/Christmas or something like that. It didn't work. So I fired up the web address and just nothing, 404, right? So what I like to build, the reason why this came about is because what I like to build is for clients is a 404 counter in GA that counts the number of 404s by how many people find them rather than SEO impact. Because there's a 404 that impacts a website from an SEO point of view, and there's a 404 that impacts from a CRO point of view. You know, so if you've put out a magazine that has lidl.co.uk/Christmas and it doesn't work, you can imagine you looking at the tens of thousands of people who have punched that in. But from an SEO point of view, there is no damage because it's probably a URL that maybe never existed before. So SEO, nothing, CRO, big problem. So I kind of did a blog post, identified some of the stuff that they weren't doing right, collated it all together, published it, and Lidl were fantastic at getting back to me.
Really?
Hasn't always been the case. Normally it's a case of people just ignoring me or whatever. But Lidl slid in my DMs and said, hey, thanks for letting us know. We fixed the issue. And I was kind of expecting like a Christmas hamper at least or something.
No, not even a little chocolate box.
Nothing special.
Okay.
But I just think, I mean, I could have, a lot of people say to me, why didn't you handle it in a different way? Why didn't you, send an email to someone or send a letter? But the way I see it is, one, it's publicly accessible information. It's on their website publicly, so I'm not doing anything malicious. And secondly, the chances of me getting Lidl as a client is really slim. But the chances of me getting clients off the back of what I've found on Lidl is much greater. So, and even, let's be honest, if I don't get Lidl as a client ever in my life, it's a shame. I might have shot myself in the arse, but to be honest, I'll probably never get them as a client anyway. So I've probably won a lot more than I've lost, I reckon.
I would agree. They'll probably drop you as quick as they hire you as well. maybe not. But nice one. I'll have to keep an eye out for who's next on your radar.
There's one.
There's one coming.
I need to get the time to write it, but it's there's one coming soon.
Brilliant. So if we move on to some sort of some of the strategy, some of the things that the sort of on the tools stuff that you're doing. So maybe talk me through, if you can, some of an e-commerce strategy that you've delivered that's generated multi-million-pound revenues and really shifted the needle for a company over the last few years, whether that's in-house or freelance. That's really you've sort of thought it through, you've got buy-in, implemented it, and then you've seen the needle really move on the sales.
So there's definitely a couple of standout examples. one doesn't necessarily reach into the millions, but there's one that definitely has. But I'm pretty sure there's an NDA there. I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyway, but I'll talk about one which I can talk about because I've done it in a talk recently. So to paint a bit of a picture, it was an issue at the checkout. So what would happen is every couple of days, customers would call and say, hey, look, I'm at the checkout, putting in my card details. What's going on? I can't complete my transaction. So normally what happens is that would trigger a ticket into dev. Dev will take a look, they'll try and replicate the issue, can't replicate it, close the ticket, you know the system, right? And this kept happening on a weekly basis for probably like close to a year. It was a really extended period of time. So I thought, do you know what? Something doesn't really sit too well here. So I started building things in GA, which allowed me to pull error messages from Google Analytics.
Yeah.
So I identified that there's a particular error message that fires extensively on the checkout. And that error message was something like, it was a SagePay specific error. And what it was like a API responsive error 7004, yada, yada, yada. Didn't mean anything to anybody. So what we actually identified is error 1007 meant invalid card number. That's all it was. So we changed the copy in that message from whatever it was saying as an API output to invalid card number, please check and retry. £30,000 uplift in sales overnight, just because of the clarity of information.
Changing the message to the end user, where they maybe put the card, put the card in wrong, or something wrong with the card, but it's sort of a bit of big error code rather than a, oh, don't worry, let's just try again message.
Yeah, absolutely. Really simple things, but technically dev were never in the wrong because what they did worked.
Yeah.
You know, so technically if you put in the right card number, the transaction works. If you put in the wrong card number, an error message appears. And it's that kind of soft skill of where does UX lie in a small business? Like, you know,
how did you spot, what was the first indicator for that problem? Was it in GA then? You were seeing huge trouble?
Yeah.
Or was it obviously people submitting tickets with errors, or?
So the indicator was I had a look at the checkout and identified all the error message events that were firing at that checkout, and that seemed to feature quite highly. So I thought, let's go and take a look. On top of that, we also captured lost basket revenue.
Yeah.
So that allowed us to understand all of the transactions we didn't win and tag all of the events in that session that led up to that specific loss in the sale.
Yeah.
So as you can imagine, there was a strong correlation between that poor error message and the lost basket value. Got quite immediate buy-in because we realized quite quickly how much money it was costing the business. So it wasn't even a case of let's put it in the queue. It was actually a case of, dude, why are we still having this conversation? Go and fix it now because it's clearly
Corker example where people come along, so we need to improve our SEO, but just like a simple saying it. Obviously, it takes some finding, but fixing a checkout. And the amount of sites we look at, I'm sure you do, like mobile. You look at the mobile checkout. We have where company sells car parts. I think it's car parts, been established 18 years, site's been online 18 years, fairly chunky business. But they've got a chatbot. Chatbot pops up, do you want some help? Yes, no, yes, no. But it was enabled when they were in checkout still, and you couldn't get rid of it. So you go into checkout on mobile, but you couldn't put your credit card in because the chatbot was overlaying the checkout. Yeah. So
I tell you what, you saying that, another one was we enabled American Express as a card payment type, but the CVC validation only allowed up to 3 characters, right? So obviously Amex is 4. So we used to have customers, well, we can't pay with Amex. I'm like, yeah, you can.
Yeah.
And it took weeks to find that issue. But it's the really small, irritating issues that you can't replicate or see that are the ones that cost you
so many owners of sites and they're just blind to it because they're seeing it every day. They don't even think, oh, it's not the checkout. Have you checked it? Well, yeah. Have you really checked it? No, probably not. No. Okay. So Black Friday. I think I know when we talked about Black Friday, I think it was just literally before Black Friday. We're all getting geared up for the madness every year now. It just seems to get crazier and crazier and crazier, and sitting there refreshing GA and seeing what's going on and refreshing it. Say, oh my God, 10 minutes has gone by, another whatever, how many orders. But I know Black Friday is a big topic for yourself. What sort of things have you been doing, would you say, maybe last November with clients to maximize?
So as I was relatively fresh in the freelance gig, there wasn't a huge amount of Black Friday activity from a client perspective. So instead, I used that time to go and pick on everybody else instead. So who was it I looked at now? Homebase, I think. And I actually got a response from Homebase, and it was quite nice, and I felt really bad afterwards. But what basically happened is you search for Black Friday on Homebase, and there was no results found. Which I thought was quite funny, because if there's a single thing that has to be right, regardless of what time of the year it is, it should be your internal search. So searching for probably the most powerful keyword on your internal search on Black Friday, and it doesn't work. Painful. But to be fair, what Homebase said is that they were not doing a Black Friday sale. So for me, I was kind of like, okay, so then you have an opportunity to double down on this, right? Because if you're not doing a Black Friday sale, when someone searches for Black Friday, you say, hey, we're not doing Black Friday this year. However, we have deals A, B, and C, D, E, F, 1, 2, and 3 available, right? Just because you're not doing something doesn't mean the experience has to be
you're just not putting the Black Friday label on it, but you are doing it.
Exactly. And then we ended up sparking a whole conversation about, using the same URL every single year. So every single year it becomes more and more powerful. So a lot of companies out there will do something like Black Friday 2019 or Black Friday extravaganza, and then next year it'll be biggest ever Black Friday as a URL. Just use the same one, because all of that equity you have will constantly be recycled every single year. And I think I looked at Currys in one of my talks, and my Search Love talk, not last year, but the year before, was on Black Friday. Now, there was one particular point where Currys had all of these juicy backlinks from people like TechRadar,
all the review sites and
all the review sites. And it was, as you see, every single year, there's lots of publications and articles, Daily Mail, all that sort of stuff, who do a summary of the top Black Friday deals from the key retailers. Obviously, these pages don't die when Black Friday's gone.
So but the mega backlinks.
But they killed the products because they're no longer for sale. So my point was, why are you taking those products off the website? Why don't you keep them there? There's an SEO kind of middle ground you need to take care of, but keep them there. And then when people go to these products for next year's Black Friday, then you can say, hey, we don't sell this 50-inch Hisense TV for $299 anymore. However, we do have this JVC 50-inch for $329. It's just using as much of the stuff that you've done before and keep using it. And then another perfect example is like case sensitivity on discount codes. And I see this so many times where like you say get an extra 10% off when you use discount code Black Friday, but you have to do it uppercase, otherwise it doesn't work. And then it's like you've lost the sale because someone's on a mobile phone and hasn't done that, or
so just made it non-case sensitive. That's the obviously the Black Friday URL issue, but that's just it's a wide issue in e-commerce, isn't it? Where a lot of clients we have, or so I know a handful of clients, should I say, that have limited runs of products, and then they might not get them for 8 months. So their strategy was right. Well, we'll take it off the website, and then we'll put it back on 8 months later. But as what you're saying, and what we're saying is, obviously Google's indexed that product page maybe 4 years ago. So sitting here today, you could have 4 years worth of equity, 4 years worth of power, a domain authority, or domain authority, should I say, rather than every 3 months, every 12 months in Black Friday's instance, you're starting from fresh. It's quite a simple solution, but it's usually, I think a lot of people, we don't sell that anymore. Get rid of it.
I think, to be honest, hats off to people like Argos, because every single year they are always consistent with their user experience. Their Black Friday land page is always spot on. But some big retailers get it right. Equally, some small independent retailers get it right. But then it's the biggest time of the year. Like if you miss that day, you've probably cost yourself potentially tens of thousands, if not more, right?
So for those that are listening to the podcast, some of the e-commerce stores that will be listening that will have products that are coming in and out of stock all the time, sort of part of Friday for a second, they're selling a product, and then that product page, you're going to go to that product page. There is no stock for say 3 months. What would you advise to do to that product page if there's not a product going to be available for 3 months? Would you do a potential back order option, reserve option, or give them the option to look at other products, or both? Or
I think the commercial limitations, I guess, is business dependent, right? Because for some products, or maybe a lot of products, you just don't know when stock's going to come back.
Yeah.
You know, you might have an idea, but the last thing you want to do is start fulfilling orders and then find out.
Sophisticated back-end systems to know that. It's exactly coming in. Yeah.
So what I normally advise is that the technical side of things needs to remain separate from commercial. So what I mean by that is if the product is out of stock for a mid to long term amount of time, then sure, take that product out of the index. And what I mean by that is no index it, but keep it followed. But what you do not do is turn that product off. That product should always remain online, because in the world of e-commerce, you've probably over the last, say, 12 months sent it in an email, you've shared it on social media, you've got affiliate links to it, you've got all sorts of stuff. So the last thing you want is to have people go into that product and seeing a 404.
Yeah.
So what you probably should do is show the product page and be quite open and say, look, this isn't available anymore. However, we have other alternatives from this brand. We have similar items from different brands, but it allows the customer, rather than seeing a kind of, don't know what you're looking for, they've got an example or a number of alternatives they can go and look at. But that's exactly how it would work if you walked into a supermarket, right? If you walk in there and you're looking for a specific, I don't know, your favorite tin of tomatoes or whatever, and they haven't got them, you will look at alternatives unless you're particularly specific about what you want. So the same experience should be online. You know, if you're looking for something and they don't have it, then here are some good alternatives. And again,
rather than nothing.
Going back, rather than nothing. And so again, another retailer that does this really well is John Lewis.
John Lewis,
They're really good at kind of, this product is no longer available. Here's some more from this brand, and here's some other products that are from other brands, but are very similar in specification.
Similar, just pulling from the category, one higher, lower, or price around circa the same brand, similar. Quite straightforward, really. I think it's just, you're either doing it or you're not. If you're not doing it, you know, it's getting something implemented, you know, depending on what you know, whether you Magento, Shopify, custom built, it's making sure you're not in there. I know there might be some limitations depending on what systems people are using. Less so now, I think most systems have got like, you know, that option, I think. So so, well, we'll see what this Black Friday seems a long way off, but it's always madness. Where are we now? 10 months time. 10 months to go. And we'll see what the crazy stats are this year around Black Friday numbers. But every year it's as you know, we do a lot of Google shopping, and it's just crazy. Literally just blows my mind. I just like the bigger clients just hit and refresh. When you can hit refresh and get like, you know, literally dozens of orders in like 10 seconds. What? I remember
blown up. It's good to see.
The year before Friday, we've taken on quite a large client, probably doing about 15,000 orders a month, so reasonable size, and on a normal month. But then I was in London on Black Friday, and I was on the train, and I was trying to hit refresh on my phone, I was like, oh my god, I was going through the tunnels from King's Cross back, and it was like, oh no, and then it would take like a minute, and it was like, oh my god, it's another 100 orders, you know, like
brilliant,
like a minute or whatever.
But actually, you saying that, you know, this whole Black Friday thing, right? Like your Black Friday page should still be live now. You shouldn't be taking that down. So I know it's not Black Friday right now, but you're still going to get visitors to that. Maybe not that many, but maybe like 95% less than what you're normally used to. But be clever with it, right? You've got domain.com/Black Friday. You land on the page. We're not doing Black Friday yet. Register for next year, so stay alerted. And then also
email list, build the list.
Email list, and then also if you've got a February sale on or whatever, you know, time of the month you're in, you can say, look, we're not doing Black Friday. Register and sign up for updates. But have a look at it. There you go. So your page is still working for you. Your equity still passes to it. It's not 404, and you have
Black Friday. It's, you know, you forget the Christmas gift. It's all about the Valentine's gift.
There you go. You see, exactly. So can you imagine something like that for Moonpig right now? Valentine's is literally around the corner.
Moonpig. We'll have to tag Moonpig when we get when we push this out live.
I'll be curious to know if their Valentine's page is live all year round, or whether they make a new one each year or whatever. It'd be cool to take a look. Maybe I should take a look. I might find some time and investigate.
Yeah, I mean, we'll push this live in about 6 weeks. We've got a bit of time, and we'll tag them up and we'll have a little look. And then if you put something out beforehand, then we can tag that as well. And
yeah, cool. I'll see what I can do.
Yeah, I think that gives you a lot to think about. I think obviously every e-com store has got Black Friday, but it's obviously the reality is you've got to maximize it all year round and prepare all year round. So you've got that, making sure those URLs are there for the Black Friday URLs, but then also the products that you're pointing to, you know, and product URLs that are coming in and out of stock. You've got a strategy for that, because I think that does get missed. Okay, so tricky question coming up.
Damn, we're doing so well. Right, okay, come on, let's have it.
No, it's a bit of a corny one or a bit of a tricky one, but what do you think is the best SEO strategy right now?
I was going to say something really quite blasé and say not have one, but I would actually say that your SEO strategy should be to just build it as best as you can for your customers.
Quality.
Don't get me wrong, I think it's a tricky one. But if you spend a lot of your time building a website that it tickles all Google all in the right spots and everything else, then that's great. But if you have a website that is SEO friendly, but CRO nightmare, you are not helping your customers and you will lose customers as a result. But if you look at it this way, if you have a website that is really slick, easy to use, has a good, healthy conversion rate, people can find what they want, but from a technical SEO perspective, it's not perfect, there's a pretty good chance from money in the till you're going to do better with the latter than you would. But I forget who says this. I think it might be Stephen Kenwright. I'll double check, but he's a gentleman that I value a lot. And he says it's not that we're chasing search engines or chasing Google's, the fact that Google are chasing the best websites, because when you're searching for something, it's Google's jobs to give you the best possible website for that particular query. So if you build a website that's crap, technically sound, but crap, you're not going to rank very well. And we've seen this time and time again with websites that just have really ugly URLs, right? But they just seem to be ranking like crazy. But because it's their brand powerhouses, right? The Matalands of these worlds. The Halfords is a perfect example. Halfords is, from a technical point of view, a bit of a mess. But it's a brand that people know and love. It's what families buy tents from. It's where you get your bikes from. Brand affinity is huge. Yeah. So, I mean, I think your SEO strategy should be build a case and a business case for what your customers really want. And then SEO will kind of follow as a result of that.
Yeah. No, good. I like that. Okay. So, I think we talk a lot about things that are working in life in general, and this is great. Yeah. But the reality is, I think there's usually a few things that we will have all tried, or a few things that we may learn from a learning experience. So it's the best way to look at it. So what would you, have you got any sort of horror stories, funny stories about projects you've worked on, or clients you've worked with, or sites you've worked with?
Definitely. There's one that springs to mind, and it's always my go-to horror story. And we were rolling out a new e-commerce website that was faster, easier, cleaner, all the boxes ticked from UX and everything else. So we launched it, and everything was good. We tested the URL structure, did all the migration, all good. Day one, it fell over. It like properly fell over. No sales, nothing. And we were like freaking out. What the hell's going on? What had actually happened is we'd made the website really fast without thinking about the back-end infrastructure and whether it could cope. So ERP-wise. So the server was built to cope. It was fine. So anything that was in the cloud was perfect. It was built for it. But what we didn't take into consideration was that the ERP system was dated. The ERP system needed a certain amount of time to respond with queries like prices, stock, and all that sort of good stuff.
Okay.
So it made the website a lot quicker, but we then made the ERP system struggle to the point where it just fell over. So no pricing, you can't buy anything, you can't log in. And we had no sales for the first day. So we had 100% down revenue day for crazy. I think the lesson learned here is it's all good to go make a website that's fast and good to make a website that's better for your customers, but actually, can all your stakeholders internally cope with the improvements? It's one I just never saw coming, because everyone's kind of get on the fast train, make it fast, make it quick, make it better. but we didn't take into consideration whether all parts of the business were ready for that.
I think that goes as well. When we touched on Black Friday, obviously you got this massive surge of business. Can you cope with it? Can you deliver? We have examples, fortunately, unfortunately, of very large, multi-million pound eCom stores, per month, that this November really screwed up, unfortunately, because they were that busy. They couldn't get the stock in time. They couldn't ship the stock in time. So they got literally, hundreds of reviews, which were not good, which really, they maybe maximize a short period, but now coming into January, February, when sort of the gift type of business is a little bit more challenging, or a lot more challenging compared with Christmas, their sort of their brands is, pretty damaged because they weren't, there's quite a few things happen with that particular. Being able to make sure everything in the back end is working, absolutely so important, because you can soon get caught out, can't you? And then the whole sort of day can come down. If in your example, if the warehouse system just completely broke and they can't pick and pack anything for a day, or they can't, stock levels, they order something by mistake, or there's a lot of variables, especially when you get to a certain size.
It is, for sure. And I think maybe it's more of a problem in a small sort of SME business environment than it is corporate, or at least you'd like to think. But I think the point is, you can do the right thing and still make a massive cock up of it, right? You're hitting all your goals, all your targets, you're making things fast, you're making things cleaner, you're using the data. But if there's a part of the business that you rely on isn't ready, to your point, right? So you've done all your campaigns, you've got everything ready, you're driving traffic, you've got in conversion, but actually, and you hear it all the time. I think maybe not so much now, but back when Groupon launched, the whole thing of people going absolutely crazy for Groupon and booking tens of thousands of vouchers for this small massage parlor in Suffolk or something.
They can't,
They can't fulfill demand, so they have to close down because it's just crazy, right? So
we're going to have to put that in the show notes about the massage parlor.
The ones in Suffolk, not the ones in Thailand, all right? There's a difference there.
We won't go any further. But absolutely, a little two-man band. I know we've got a small client, who was a friend of mine, right? Who's got a sort of a fitness center, but it's not a David Lloyd. It's a one man. He's got a couple of staff, and he does Groupon. And sometimes I see his Groupon, it's sold 120. I'm thinking, how the hell, dude, are you going to get 120 people through your two-room fitness? He has a brilliant business, but it's very personalized. But I think. The reality is with Groupon, probably not a lot of people actually redeem their purchases, but been geared up for what might come from that in something else. So SEO wise, what would you say are some of the tools that you like to really? Obviously, there's a lot of tools out there, a lot of I think household names in SEO, SEMrush, Ahrefs, and so forth and so on. A lot of tools we use in the industry, but what are the couple of bits that you use, sort of maybe a couple of features within a couple of tools that you really?
So I like to, I'm a bit of a, what you would call it, I'm curious. So I normally try lots of different tools out, but I normally have a very distinct tool set that I go to all of the time. Ahrefs is one of my absolute favorites, mainly because of their data. It just seems to be the most comprehensive. And I think you can gauge the quality of an SEO tool by how well it finds data for small domains. So it's easy to go away and find, I don't know, Argos.com, right? Or Argos.co.uk and get loads of data. But actually for this kind of website that's been going for 2 or 3 years, it's got no equity, so for me, Ahrefs is brilliant. I love that tool, specifically the broken backlinks tool, but I actually wrote a blog post about that where Ahrefs might be missing a big trick.
The broken backlinks tool within Ahrefs.
But I actually ran across a case where Ahrefs only reports a link as broken if it responds with a 404 or a 4xx issue, a 5xx issue, or a DNS problem. So if it has none of those three, it won't be reported as broken, even though Google can see that as broken.
So for example, a lot of opportunities then.
So if something times out, so it just doesn't ever respond, then Ahrefs will never see that as a broken backlink, but Google will. So I actually wrote a blog post about this, and I'm hoping Ahrefs, I need to share it around a little bit more to see if they'll get notice of it. But I think the point here is sometimes broken backlinks you feel is the be all and end all of finding the broken links, and actually by sheer coincidence I found something that wasn't necessarily the case. So I'll pop a link to that in the thing. But Screaming Frog, I think, is a given. It's a toolkit. It's literally the screwdriver of anyone who works in that industry.
A cheap tool as well, isn't it?
Yeah, technically free, depending on how big the site is, and then like less than 200 quid a year for a subscription.
Yeah, 180.
Yeah, negligible stuff. I really like one which isn't very popular called Cognitive SEO.
SEO, Razvan. Yeah,
I haven't used this one in some time, but that thing was awesome. I think back in the day of when disavow was like this huge super topic, they had a really powerful disavow tool. But I've got one more go-to which I use and I have a subscription to, which is Systrix. Love that one. Systrix. Systrix is the one that for me makes all that data stakeholder friendly, C-suite friendly, because it has a beautiful graph called keyword. Damn, I need to do this justice. What the hell is it called? Visibility index. There we go. And the visibility index is a perfect graph at demonstrating organic performance over a period of time. So like over 5-10 years. And you can start to see exactly where a particular domain was at its SEO peak and where it's dropped and why, and algorithm updates. And for a C-suite, that's really helpful. Because rather than kind of show them GA and all this kind of stuff, it's just one graph. That takes an average of basically all the SEO factors and kind of gives you a nice,
I
have to find problems.
I have to say that's not one I've heard of, and that's I think we'll give that a go and I'll have a play. I think Cognitive. We used Cognitive for about 5 years here, somewhere there, up until about a year ago. Then we have moved things around a bit, but it's one that I personally really liked. I think for the link profiling specifically, it was exceptional. But like you say, when we were doing a lot of disavows, which we don't do anymore, well, very rarely. It was our bread and butter back in the day when we were disavowing. It was literally Cognitive, build the disavow file. Good.
But what I will also say actually is, you know what? You don't actually have to spend money to get good tools. Like Search Console is awesome. Let's be honest. Although there's a few things I don't like about it. For example, if you no index URLs, they don't appear. Backlinks for those URLs don't appear in Search Console. So no index and or no followed URLs don't appear. And I've got a post about that as well. But Search Console is incredible. There's like loads of redirect hot checkers. There's loads of Chrome extensions. So I love the Ayuma. I think that's how you pronounce it. Ayuma. Redirect checker for Chrome. I love the JS, the JavaScript toggle switcher, which just allows you to see how website renders when JavaScript's turned off. There's loads of free things that not only do one thing, but it saves you a bucket load of time, or just gives you a window of visibility that you wouldn't have had without it. Free tools are some of the best ones.
If you had to choose one, you'd be Ahrefs then?
I had to choose
one tool is a bit of a nightmare situation in SEO, I know, but if you had to go with one, where would you go?
I think
another question. You've got 10 minutes to diagnose a website best you can. What tool would you use to be able to present enough data on that website?
Search Console.
Search Console.
Because that way I could justify value without spending a single penny. And then I can get my window for Ahrefs afterwards. I've done that epic presentation, and now I can get Ahrefs, Systrix, and everything else all in the one.
Okay, brilliant. So lots of tools there. Some good shout outs there. So that's good. So what would you say is one thing you wish you'd known before you started out as an SEO? Is there one thing in particular that you think?
That's a good question.
Maybe spend a lot of time doing something that maybe that's not the way forward, or is there one sort of area that spent a lot of time in?
I wish I would have known how big a deal Python would have been before it was a big deal.
Okay.
Because data is the new gold. I say data is the new gold, like data hasn't been gold for several years now, but Yeah, Python just seems to be this epic force. And actually, shout out to a lady called Ruth Everett. Actually, she's literally, every time I see her, she just always gives me this catalyst to go and pull my finger out and go and get some Python stuff done, which is brilliant. She works for DeepCrawl.
Yeah, she did.
I wish
when I met you, she was doing the talk there, wasn't she? Was that?
Yes. Yeah, that was there.
I have to admit, a couple of my guys, or particularly one guy, Andy, who's our head of or lead technical engineer, he's now like on Python. It's like Python mad, yeah.
Yeah, Python is definitely one. I think, outside of that, automation it's still something I'm working out. I'd still love to know a heck of a lot more, but you don't know what you don't know, right? So I think if I could have jumped on Python, say 2 years ago or whatever, then that would have been incredible.
Yeah, automation's an interesting. Python, I'm not too, I'm not on it whatsoever personally, so it's a tricky one for me. But like automation, obviously, on the AdWords side, huge. It's a huge thing for us, a huge thing for our clients. Being able to, there's obviously different types of automation, but being able to take data from different systems and different, extract stuff from from the different tools. And we've just had a meeting this morning about creating new dashboards for clients, Data Studio, and then extracting all the data from Ahrefs, extracting API from Push, GA obviously, and just some of the once you've set some stuff up using automations, like wow. You can really dazzle the client, but obviously you can speed it up and you can spend your time then doing proper stuff. Rather than spending 5 hours sorting out data and sort of so. Yeah,
but I think to also complement that, the one thing I'd absolutely say is it's all good and well having all the science and technology and gigabytes and terabytes of data at your disposal, but SEO will always be fundamentals first. So your backlinks, your information architecture, your speed, they're all just as important, if not actually they're a heck of a lot more important than all the new shiny stuff like all that sort of stuff. So I think SEO is still the same as it was to a point 5-10 years ago. It's still about fundamentals, right?
I agree.
And sometimes it can be very easy to get lost in the new and shiny and forget about the core pillars of stuff, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So what would you say is one thing that you failed at?
Wow. Okay. I might have to swear on this podcast because I feel like I need to.
My podcast, do it right, within reason.
Oh, God. One thing I think I failed at.
Probably need to reword the question. So what's the biggest learning?
Time is precious. I think everyone who hits their 30s will probably say this, right? So you don't realize how much time you waste when you're in this is like turning from like an SEO podcast to some kind of life coaching thing. But like in your early 20s, you are so time rich, you don't realize how much time you actually have.
Yeah.
I think if I'd have realized and sat down and really got my head down and stopped messing around with alcohol so much, then I probably would have been a little bit further on than I was. But saying that, compared to my humble beginnings and everything else, I've come a heck of a long way as well. So I don't know. I think I've got a better answer for that, and I'll work it out as soon as I put the phone down for this podcast. But that's what I'll give you right now.
So what would you say? Obviously, a lot of like you say, fundamentals are very important. Very much so, even more so, getting out, building a quality experience. But what would you say one trend that we've got to keep an eye on in the industry that you think is, think about e-commerce specifically, what's one trend we should keep an eye on?
One thing I think one thing I'm actually really curious about is Instagram. I'm a little bit worried by, should I say, because they've not really managed to make a massive commercial move yet outside of the cliche ads. But Instagram is super visual, and Instagram is all about influence, and it's very, it's fashion led, right? So I think there could be something in the pipeline, don't know when, maybe 12 months from now, where Instagram becomes its own e-commerce platform. Imagine like kind of like a Shopify Instagram mashup. And I know they've done beta tests of stuff like this before. You might know more than this with me.
There's a moment where a brand will list in an image, and you can the brands. Only so many brands have got that, I believe.
Yeah, but could you imagine how powerful it'd be if Instagram had the ability to kind of create a Shopify instance in that platform?
Yeah,
I think that would be huge, especially if Instagram is slicing the commission off every sale. But I just think something tells me there's something bubbling away in their HQ somewhere. That's how can we monetize Instagram in a way that other people don't.
Yeah.
And then you think about Google as well and stuff like that. So for example, yes, you've got Google now, you can click on a PLA or click on a product ad and go away and buy it. But imagine a situation where you can do a whole transaction from the search page rather than having to go to a retailer. So kind of like Amazon mashed with Google search.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me again if you click on a product.
Yeah, well, we've been to obviously quite a few different meetups, I guess. Meetups, no.
Yeah.
But with Google, and the last one I was at was showing the PLA Google Shopping listed, and then when you click through, it adds the product to the basket already on the website.
Okay.
They said that was coming, but that was about 9 months ago when they said that. So I thought, already going to be here. So literally, you've clicked the PLA or Google Shopping listing, and bang, you're on the site, but you're not just on the product page. You're in the basket with the product ready to go. Right? Yeah,
that's cool, but I also don't think that's Google enough. That's not Google enough. I think what will happen is you'll be able to complete the entire transaction without ever leaving Google. Yeah. And then ultimately Google just kind of pushes you the sale via a platform or something.
Yeah.
So
that's
I could technically,
scary, isn't it? Think, well, so it's not, so do we not need a website then one day?
But think about what they've done to things like Google Flights, right? And
it's all in the
car insurance and stuff. It's just there.
Yeah.
So I think it's just a matter of time before they work out how to avoid you even going to the website to complete a purchase.
Yeah.
When? Don't know. But they'll find a way.
Yeah. Product search in the index. You just buy it. Yeah. Because I think they must be working on, well, obviously they're always working on stuff, but like with the shenanigans with the CSS, they've had to bring out the CSS system for to counter the sort of, obviously the index not being competitive for price comparison sites. So they brought that out, but it's the next level where there will be a price comparison into the index, maybe, or something like that. Yeah.
Well, so they've already got Google Play Store.
Is your shout out then to keep an eye out then? One to one.
I'm not a fan of the platform at all, but I just think I don't really like what it stands for and the kind of mental health connotations with it. But I just think as a platform, it's probably the one that's most trend oriented.
Yeah. Okay, well, we're nearly at the end, Luke. We are. It's gone. That's an hour, pretty much.
Disappeared.
50-ish minutes. So, last question for you. I like to ask my guests about a book that they would recommend or a resource they would recommend, preferably a book. What have you got? One that's on top of the list?
I have. There's a book by a lady called April Dunford. And I'm going to do absolutely no justice now because I've forgotten what it's called. It's called Obviously Awesome. And it's a book all about product positioning. And sounds really cliche and kind of, whatever, mate. But honestly, if you can find her presentation online, she did Learning Bound over in Dublin last year, and it blew my mind. She tells a really good story about her personal experience and trying to position a financial product in a really
like a challenging sector.
But her book talks a lot of sense, and I'm quite an impatient person, so I don't really like those really thick, heavy novels.
I'm with you on that one.
But it's a good, you could read it in probably a day or 2 days if you wanted to. But it's got some really good stuff about positioning your products, which you can relate to in e-commerce or just kind of like a brochure site. But that's definitely my go-to book. Yeah, I think it's a brilliant book.
Yeah. So April Dunford.
April Dunford, and the book's called Obviously Awesome. Yeah,
we'll get that we'll get that popped in the checkout and get that checked out. Yeah, well, Luke, thank you so much. So for the guys that are listening to the podcast, when we release it, how will they be able to find out more about you, Luke? Where's the best place to sort of find what you're up to?
Google, I guess. Twitter. I'm always on Twitter. So lukecarthy.com, at Mr. Luke Carthy on Twitter. I'm normally speaking at some conference somewhere. I think about a few things. Sort of
speaking agendas at the various SEO stroke sort of.
So I'm at Brighton in April.
Yeah.
And there's a few small meetups as well. There's one I'm looking forward to called Drink, which is one that's coming up in March, I think.
March. Yeah.
And there's another one I'm speaking at. This may actually come out. I'm actually speaking there before this podcast releases, but it's called Love Inbound, and it's in Clitheroe Row, and it's by the guy. It's a HubSpot agency called Digital 22. There we go. And they put on a conference that they've kindly invited me to. So I'm normally at some meetup or conference.
Yeah. So we'll find you on LinkedIn. Obviously, I know you put a lot of stuff out there, and you'll be putting your latest finds on LinkedIn of who's doing what or who's not doing what.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks so much, Luke. It's been an absolute pleasure. There's a lot of in there, so I'm look forward to catching up with you again soon. I'll just thanks a lot. Brilliant.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
Right.